There are two steps to installing grommets. The first step is to cut a hole in your fabric, and the second step is to go ahead and install the actual grommet. I'm just going to use a piece of scrap fabric off of here. I'm just going to go ahead, quickly hack a piece out of here to show you how this machine works. And it's a good idea before you go ahead and do this on your final project to try it once on an extra piece of fabric so that you know for sure what you're doing before you go ahead to your project. So I've got the diagrams taped onto the grommet machine here, and I've actually got my pieces laid out so you can kind of compare my drawings to the actual pieces. It says here, silver first cutter, that's what cuts the hole that you will install the grommet into. So it is these two pieces, and they are set up like this so that you know that this one goes in the top and this one goes in the bottom. The bottom one you can simply drop into that hole there. The top one you might have to loosen a little bit first. You just sort of slide this up and then just finger tighten this bolt on the side here. When you do your project, you should definitely mark where you want the hole to go. So I'm just going to do a little mark right there for my practice run. When I center it over the cutter, I kind of pull the fabric down so that I can see that the mark is roughly in the center. And you need to give this a little bit of a push. I always first line it up before I let go, so gently lining it up, and then push hard. You can give it a couple of little hammers if you need to in order to cut your hole. Don't worry if it's not perfect. If you've got a hole, that's good enough. It will stretch over time as you do your next step. The next step, so you've cut the hole, that's step one. Go ahead and remove these two pieces, put them aside. And now it says here gold second. This is the actual grommet press. You need to install these two pieces as they look on the diagram. And so those two pieces, this is the top one. I'll just realign this a little bit so you can see it better. And then this one is the bottom. And I say gold, the color difference is not super noticeable, but this has slightly more of a brass tinge to it. So if you're not sure, check with me before you do this. This is the bottom part. So we place the bottom part in. The top one, here's where you have to start installing your actual grommets. So I have my two little bins here, and they are labeled top grommet, bottom grommet. Do not mix these up. So let's start with the top one. I even have it labeled again on the inside. Take out one of these. Make sure you have only one. They like to sort of sandwich inside of each other, so pull it apart if you need to. To put it in here, I just sort of drop it in, and this is like a rubber seal that kind of holds it, grips it a little bit. I just run my thumb around it to make sure that it is stuck into there. Notice that I put it with the curve facing upward, so it's like the curve is up, just like on the diagram. And again, just go ahead, insert, turn, and then the bottom grommet, it looks almost like a little hat compared to the top. So take out a bottom. There we go. So it looks like a little top hat. That's the bottom of the grommet. You just drop it in like that, so it's like a hat. And then go ahead. That hole that you've cut is now placed over top of the bottom grommet. And again, hold gently with one hand, lower so that it's exactly lined up with the other hand. Then with both hands, push down, give it a firm push. You can tap it a few more times to give it a final push, and then your grommet is installed. You can sort of feel it. If it doesn't quite feel like it's in, it's okay to line it up again and give it a few more pushes. Just be gentle with it, don't be too rough, because I've seen some kids really lift it up and way down really hard, and they end up missing because it shifts a bit, and they end up bending the grommet. Doesn't look so nice. So try to keep it right on track. Give it a couple of firm taps, and you will feel the difference. It is nice and flat. So that is how you install a grommet. Practice a few times, 1 or 2 times on scrap fabric before you do this on your project. Now I'm going to show you when you're ready for your project. Here's that sewn off corner that I did on this side. I do not want to install the grommet really close to the corner because that's too close to the edge. It's going to break out of there eventually. And also you still have that little bulky fabric from your seam allowance in there. It's a lot harder to cut than somewhere closer to your seam line. So you're going to go ahead, you've made your mark. Once you've practiced a few times, you know what you're doing, switch back to your cutter and go ahead, cut your hole. Once you've cut the hole, install your grommet and then do the same thing for the other side. This side will be a little more challenging because that additional layer of mesh or fabric is a little thicker, so the cutting is a little hard. Take your time with it, be careful, be cautious, and once you've cut, installing the grommet will be quite straightforward.